This comment says, I feel like that would be so challenging, referring to keeping pets in an intra-household aggression case separated, and also so risky for the animals. Wouldn't it be better for everyone to rehome one of the pets? And so the answer is, it depends. Keeping pets in the home completely separated is incredibly challenging. It is incredibly stressful, and it can be risky, depending on the variables involved in the case. But rehoming a pet is also incredibly challenging, and it can also be very risky. Anytime we have a behavior case, any kind of behavior case, it doesn't have to be intra-household aggression, we have 4 options. Long-term management without behavior therapy, management and behavior therapy, the R's, rescue, return to shelter, return to breeder, rehome, or behavioral euthanasia. All of those choices are challenging. All of them come with risk and fallout. And only the people living that experience can decide what is right for them based on quality of life and risk assessment. And each individual human gets to decide what is an acceptable quality of life, what is sustainable, and what is an appropriate level of risk for their household. Many of my clients are not good candidates for being rehomed. A lot of my clients have complex behavior issues that would preclude them from being able to go to a rescue, or from being ethically adopted from a shelter, or to find a home where they could be successful. Oftentimes, too, we're talking about cases where the dogs have lived together for a long time. Sometimes we see cases where the issue is with a new dog that's being brought into the home, or with a foster that we're considering adopting. But oftentimes, when I'm seeing inter-household cases, I'm seeing dogs who have lived together for years, and oftentimes with pet parents who have never considered rehoming one of their dogs, who are like, no matter what happens, my dog will be with me, and now they're faced with a situation that they never imagined. There are a lot of variables that can impact everyone's quality of life, the sustainability of the management, and the level of risk associated with the incidents. And then there's also a question of the prognosis. So in some of these cases, the total separation is temporary. We're doing it for weeks or months while we do sort of individual therapy with the pets, and then as they have those skills on board, go into relational therapy. And sometimes we're looking at the long term. Sometimes at sort of the other end of the spectrum, we're saying these animals are always going to be separated, but we're trying to reduce the likelihood of an incident if there's a management mistake. We're trying to reduce the severity of an incident if there's a management mistake. And then there are lots of options in between where the pets might be together situationally. They might be together most of the time, but we're separating for certain activities, or just doing away with certain activities. Or it may be that they're together in specific circumstances and separated the rest of the time. Some factors that go into the sustainability of such a setup include financial resources, social support, emotional bandwidth. One of the variables we consider in the prognosis of a case is actually if the whole family is on the same page. When people have different opinions about how to proceed, or they really blame one of the pets over the other, or they blame one of their family members who they sort of attribute that pet as belonging to, that can really drain the emotional cup and make it a lot harder to create sustainability. If you're able to get social support and have other people come in and help you take care of the pups and meet their needs and refill your emotional cup, if you are able to access, daycares or dog walking services, or you're able to get a little breathing room, that can create a big impact on the sustainability. When we look at quality of life, we want to ask, is everyone's quality of life high enough to be acceptable in these circumstances for the amount of time we're doing the management? Are we able to meet everyone's needs? And again, social support, financial resources, emotional bandwidth, all of these things, time, space, all of these things really come into play when we're saying how difficult is this going to be to maintain an acceptable quality of life for everyone, humans included. And then level of risk. So, if we have a management oops and the dogs or the pets end up together, are we talking about someone's life being at risk? Are we talking about high-level fights with injuries? Are we talking about a tense moment and some growling and snapping with no contact? What are the risks to the humans who may be around such an incident or try to break up such an incident? Do we have other vulnerable populations in the home, such as children? And so there are a lot of variables to consider. Generally, we consider the R's, the rehoming the dog, return to rescue or breeder, or behavioral euthanasia, when we've said the management only or management and behavior therapy either are not sustainable, are not conducive to a high enough quality of life for someone involved, or are the level of risk is too high. When we're considering rehoming or returning the dog to breeder or rescue or all these sorts of things, let's talk specifically about rehoming. There are a lot of things to consider. If one of the pets has complex behavioral needs, that's a really hard sell. A dog with complex behavioral needs may need a lot of support even if they are the only pet in a home. If the dog has a bite history or they pose a risk to society, like if they get out of the front door and are likely to attack another dog, that sort of thing, they may not ethically be a candidate for rehoming. The original family could face legal trouble, legal repercussions, even when the dog is no longer in their care if the dog aggresses against someone. We have to consider the mental toll. If I have a dog who, takes, let's say, 6 months to adjust to moving to a new place with their family, and who has hyper attachment issues or separation anxiety issues, it may be that my dog, the emotional and mental toll that it would take on my dog to be rehomed, may not be a fair ask of the dog. It's also really risky in that we lose control over how our dog is supported. And so if you are rehoming a dog who has behavior concerns, you run the risk of someone trying to treat their anxiety disorder, their hyperarousal, their trauma with aversives. You run the risk of them ending up in a situation where their quality of life is not up to your standards. Also, rehoming takes time. It takes a lot of time. Often when I have seen clients attempt to rehome one of their pups, we're talking about many months on end of posting online, of courtesy posting from rescues, of interviewing people, of going through a lot of work of people saying that they want the dog and potentially lying about, oh no, we don't have kids in the home, or we don't have other pets, or people coming in and saying, oh, I can fix any dog with any behavior problem. Things falling through, the meet and greets not working out. It's a lot of work and it's very time consuming, and it's not a quick fix to get the dog out of the house. Now, in some cases, you may have a situation where rehoming makes a ton of sense. Maybe the dog doesn't have complex behavior issues. Maybe they are not a big safety risk. Maybe they just have a problem with this dog, or they aren't a big risk to the community but would do best in an only dog home. Maybe it's a situation where the dog is relatively new to the house, and so it's maybe a bit of an easier decision than a dog who's lived in the home for many years. So there are certainly situations where rehoming one of the dogs can make a lot of sense. Sometimes, often what I see as sort of the best case scenario too is where the pet parent is able to rehome the dog to someone they know, to a family member, to a friend. They can still be in the dog's life. That's usually the best case scenario that I see for the rescue rehome option. When we have a situation where we're saying either the quality of life is not high enough, the risk is too high, or this is not sustainable, and none of those first three options are available, that's when we tend to look at behavioral euthanasia. So none of the decisions are easy. They are all very, very hard. Deciding to continue with behavior therapy is hard. Deciding to remove one of the animals from the house is hard. It's just a matter of which one is the right hard for that person's situation, and that's a very, very individual decision.